Welcome to the For the Love of the Game podcast with Johnny K. This is episode 11, a look back at the first 10 years of Johnny K Sports. Johnny walks through how it all started, what he's learned, and the people who helped bring it to life. The stories, the struggles, and the turning points that shaped the journey. Let's get into it.
Episode 11, I'm Johnny K from For the Love of the Game podcast. Thanks for tuning in this month. Appreciate all the feedback, constructive criticism, ideas, suggestions. I love it all. So please continue to comment and share the podcast if you wish. And today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. It's going to be the first 10 years of Johnny K Sports and how things got cooking for me, the opportunities I've been given, the people I met, and everything along the way. The year was 1996 as we get started. My first mentor, my friend, my pal, Bev Eckert. He made it possible 100% for Johnny K Sports to open the door. He was the financial backer. It was his idea. It was him coming to me and asking, you should open, telling me or suggesting to me that I should open a sports store. I was at his house. I was eating corn on the cob. I probably ate 9 or 10 that night. And then he asked me the question, how would you like to open a sports store? I can make it possible. And the rest is history. Bev Eckert and his family made it possible for me to be almost 30 years in business here. And we're going to concentrate today on the first 10 plus years because there's some interesting stories. There's some people along the way that made it all possible. But the number one and the person that got things rolling for me was Bev Eckert. Thank you so much, Bev. You know how much it means to me, and I couldn't have been a businessman without you. So thank you very much, and thanks for believing in me. Being with Bev, we had to get things rolling, and I needed to find a business plan. I needed someone to help me put that together. So Bev connected me with Buzz Zimmerman. Bill Zimmerman, Durham, Ontario. He's an accountant, and he lived about 100 meters away from my house. I went to go see Bill, and we, in the basement, had the same paneling in the basement as my place, the old school paneling, and we sat at his desk, and he asked questions like, how much do you think you're going to do in sales in a year? I said, no idea, Buzz. How much inventory? I don't know, $100? I don't know. We're talking questions that someone that took business or finance would know, but I was kind of freewheeling this project. The only accounting I had was grade 12 accounting with Miss Traversy, and I nailed that class for some reason, about an 80%. And your debits equal your credits, something like that. But this start here was a little over my head. It was Bill Zimmerman that put it all together for me, made it into a proposal, and then we're off to the bank, the credit union, Durham, Ontario, and that's where we meet. Wayne Cargo, great guy. He's retired now, but Wayne and I share a lot of good laughs, and great bank manager, great gentleman for walking into his office and having an idea. He listens to you. We talk about curling. We talk about hunting. I was good friends with his son, John, so he's seen me in all sorts of situations, but we had a mutual respect, and he was always good for my business, and he always believed in what I wanted to do. I remember one time in 2002, Durham homecoming. I had a little too much to drink maybe, and I saw Wayne at the homecoming dance. And that week we had signed some papers and stuff, did some business stuff, but I went from behind, got Wayne and put him in a full Nelson. And that's what people do, young entrepreneurs. If you want to leave a good impression on your bank manager, you put him on a full Nelson. Don't let him go for 5 minutes. And he was a good sport. He returned the favor a few homecomings later. I didn't see him coming. He wrapped his arms around my big head. He put me in a full Nelson. So lots of fun. Wayne Cargo. Shout out to Mary, too. Makes the best peanut brittle in the world. Anytime I left the Cargo house, I had pockets full of brittle. So Wayne Cargo, thank you very much. Thanks for believing in the idea of Johnny K Sports. As we move along through the years, Vi Bland, she was the publisher of a newspaper called Mosaic. And Vi was right beside me in that building where I first opened on 148 Lambton Street. And Vi was the first person, we became friends right away. And I wanted to be more business-like because back then, we didn't even email that much. If you were going to do a quote, you'd type it out, and you wanted it to sound right. And Vi was the first person that, helped me make a quote look professional. And we always used the line, and it said something like, please find my prices to be fair, implemented with quality and excellent customer service. And when I read that, whoever had a quote from me from 96 to 2002, pretty sure that's what the line was in there. But we mean it. It was Vi Bland putting it all together. Vi was also a big part of just supporting me. When I first opened the store, I've talked about my depression openly before. And when I opened the store, a lot of stress. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm owning a business. I'm banking, writing checks, ordering stuff, trying to do team orders, trying to make money, trying just to do everything. And it was overwhelming. It was tough. And tough that it actually put me in a funk, to be honest with you. Some personal stuff came in the mix. And then now I'm officially depressed. And I've talked about it openly, so I'm not going to get into the details of that. But Vi was always there for me, because some of my coping mechanisms were I would try to write some poems. I know it sounds silly, but I would write poems and give them to Vi, and she'd type them up and she'd put them in a folder for me. And just Vi was always there to listen. I know she probably had a million things on her mind. Vi has since passed, but she always gave me the time of day. So did a lot of my friends, I should say. When I was in that depression state, all my buddies knew it. And at 50 years old, we laugh and joke about it now, because, with depression and the way I was able to get out of that was through humor. Laugh, joke, buy a guitar. I bought a guitar for $600. The boys still ripped me about the guitar. I was going to be a singer-songwriter. The girls were going to be, you're amazing, and sing around a campfire. But the poetry, Vi was always there. And I'm going to tell you one poem, and this is going to be really weird on the 11th episode of John Coyce, the For the Love of the Game podcast. But here it is. And this will give you an idea of what state I was in. It's called Sweet Misery. And I've never said this in public. And here we go. This sweet misery that I feel makes my life of no appeal. I get up in the morning blue, pouting that I don't have you. What happened to the funny guy that laughed, joked, and never cried? Is he gone and lost forever, or is he currently just under the weather? What has happened is meant to be. Just understanding is hard to see. Yeah, it's pretty heavy, eh? I was pretty down in the dumps, but I was able to jump out of that. But Vi was there, and I don't know why I remember that poem, but I do. And I don't know why I think it's appropriate to put it on my social media, but I'm just being real. I don't care. That's how depressed I was. If you're young and you're in a business and you're stressed, get some help, see your doctor, all that type of stuff. Never be ashamed of being depressed or being down. Dr. Wally, he saw me and he supported me and he listened to me. And see your doctor is the most important thing. And depression, don't want to go off topic, but that's, I've talked about it openly before. And Vi Bland, thank you, Vi, for listening to me and let me write poems, because that made me feel better. So Vi Bland, thank you very much. I'm going to go to 2001, and now I'm having thoughts of being a property owner in Durham. I'm having fun with the business, and I just want to try to keep going. And it was my old baseball coach, Reg Daze, that came to visit me in Durham when I wasn't well, talking about the depression. But he came in. I remember him telling me, you know what, John, you have to open. No. He said, you have to buy your own building. I'm like, buy your own building? Are you crazy? Like, I can't even tie my own shoes right now. You're talking about buying a building. But, that was true. And at the time, I didn't want to hear it, but he was right. And I was wanting to set myself up to buy my own building, but I had to make sure that I took care of some obligations along the way. And that's when I met a gentleman by the name of Mike Morris. He was like a father figure, an older gentleman from Orangeville, Ontario. I called him Interest Only Mike because he made it possible with some finances for me to kind of get to the next level. But this Mike Morris guy, I know some of you that listen known him. He passed away in 2002, but just a gentleman, a good guy, and he'd say magic with his Scottish or English accent. I don't know what it was, but he would just always be smiling and giggling, and he'd come visit me. And we talk about the Orangeville Crushers, the 91 team that lost to the Hanover Barons in 91. He was a big fan of Jamie Litt. He'd tell me Jamie Litt stories. He'd talk about the Orangeville Northmen lacrosse. And when I read his obituary, it talked how there was donations can be made to the Orangeville Northmen. So I found that really fitting. But Mike Morris believed in me, and he believed in me so much that, we had a financial agreement. And at the end, it came a time that I had to pay him back. And he went to the lawyer that day. And it was at the same time that I had bought a building too. So you know how, everything's closing at the end of the month. And Mike was in there to get paid for what he had lent me. So he went to the lawyer's office, Michael McGarry's office. And the receptionist was there. I believe it was Bonnie McIntyre, if my memory serves me right. And they were talking away, and something was asked by one of the secretaries in there. I don't know, like, what kind of agreement did you and John have? Because Mike had picked up his check. And Mike's like, agreement? All we had is this. He kept on looking at his hand. And he was laughing when he told me that story, because all we had was a handshake. Mike Morris, interest only. He was a beauty. And back then, when you're striving for something and you want to build something, you pay the interest. You pay it. You pay the credit card fees. The first person I ever met in my life that actually paid their credit card on time was my wife at the time, after 2006, Karen. She'd put a Visa charge on, and then she would pay it like in time. I'm like, does that really happen? Because meanwhile, I had about 2 of those cards to the max. But that's when you're trying to strive to build a business, and you go into the bank account, and someone might ask you, what kind of interest rate did you get? You know what? I got the loan. That's all that matters. I have a chance. And that's where, when you're young and you're striving, I'm not saying it's the right way, but I didn't have big money back then. I had a loan and I had some other obligations, but when I wanted to buy the building, I had to collect some more funds. So Mike Morris, thank you very much. Thanks for everything. And, great guy, good humor. And I know people listening that know Mike, they know exactly what he's like, and just a big old smile there. So he was a big part of me being able to get to my next purchase there. And that was the building. And that's from Orma and Pete Padfield, 2 outstanding people that I love very much, that have been a huge supporter of me, and they made it possible to put this together. And there's a gentleman by the name of Tim Budd that helped put that deal together, and Tim was the one that helped orchestrate the deal that Bev and I had together. And he was a financial guy. Tim taught me how to save money early, but Tim was also the gentleman that made it possible. It made me realize that I can own a building and I can do this. And he worked on the deal, and Pete and Norma agreed to sell me the building, and the rest is history. And what I remember about going into Padfield's Pro Hardware, I've talked about this on a post before, but just how everyone's friendly in there. Pete was a multitasker, cutting a key. He'd be helping a customer out. He'd be loading a box. I remember telling my mom, true story, I remember saying to her one day, Mom, I want to be just like Pete when I grow up. Because Pete gets there at 5 a.m. when the order comes in early. He's putting it away, and he's just always going, and he works so hard. And it's just without Pete and Norma, it wouldn't be possible for me to get to the next level of business, being a property owner and continuing to grow my business. So more special mentors along the way as we concentrate on the first 10 plus years of the venture of Johnny K Sports. Believe it or not, I actually sold hot tubs Yes, we're going to call that a multi-source income. Back in the day, you'd go into Becker's and there would be a Subway in there, and that's what they call trying to, when people come in, maybe you can buy something else. And that was what our thinking was, and it was Donnie Trumbull, my pal, with the idea that we were going to sell hot tubs together. And I loved it. I loved the venture. It was a lot of work, and Don was the guy that taught me about the worm, and it's the early bird that gets the worm. Can't expect to get up at 5 minutes to 9, get to work late, and expect to get ahead in life. I know he's an early riser. He still is today, and I feel like that I am now too. And it didn't happen overnight, but you just learn those little things. And every time I see him, I just, not all the time, but I just think of how hard he hustled. And he brought me into his business, Paradise Spas. And we sold hot tubs together, and we hustled. And we did that for 3 or 4 years. And then it just got to a point that both of us just ended up being too busy. I opened the second store in Hanover, and Donnie was in Orangeville. So that was the end of Paradise Spas. But just working with Don and Susan Trumbull for those years, I learned a lot and about business. And the ultimate thing is, if you think that you just lock the door at 6 o'clock and then the rest of the evening you're just going to sit around and do nothing, that's when we sold the majority of our tubs. We did a lot of our deliveries at night, and that's the hustle that I needed to see what it takes. So Don and Susan Trumbull, big part of the journey. Thank you very much. After we bought the building, I was going to renovate the upstairs apartment. And you want to talk about a big reno job, and you want to talk about someone that has absolutely zero idea how to budget? That's me. I'm pretty sure I allocated, this is no joke, $10,000 to redo an apartment. Couple painting and fix this up, and we're good to go, right? Convinced my mom that, hey, Mom, we should move here. And she said, like she always does, let's do it. So the 10 turned into 70 grand pretty quick. I had to replace all the electrical, the drywall, the ceilings in that upstairs apartment there were like 15 feet high. We brought them all down. My good friend Brian Nelson from Bitech did the work. That's when I kind of was kicking myself in the ass. Like, you should have maybe paid attention more when you were younger. Maybe you could help frame or do something. But what I found out I was really good at was sweeping a floor. And that's where, nothing wrong with sweeping your own floor, going to the dump, and just providing some type of hustle. Apartment blew the budget. Near the end of the apartment, I had to get to the carpet. And when it came to the carpet, I didn't have any money left. So Harry and Catherine Wilson, they were going to do the carpet for me. And then I told Harry, listen, I got to put it on hold because I don't have the money to pay you. And that's when the term, we're here to help. And Harry told me, I'm going to lay the carpet and you're going to pay me monthly. And that was 3 or 4 months. And that's what I did. And he trusted me. But the here to help part, that hits home. Harry Wilson, good man. And Catherine, just good business people. And just like Pete Norma, they're here to help. And seeing that as a young up and coming entrepreneur, wanting to see how business goes, that's one of the things that I'll never forget. They're here to help, and we try to help our customers all the time. So when I talk about sweeping the floor, another mentor of mine, and his name is Bill Parsons. And I met Bill back in the day. He owned McDonald's in Hanover, and he came into the store one day and he wanted to do a joint coupon or something like that. And, we were talking and we came up with the coupon. Here it is right here. It's for a 99-cent large sandwich. The only stipulation is you have to buy a supersized fry or a large drink. And there's the coupon with McDonald's, Johnny K Sports on it. And anytime someone came in to sharpen their skates, we'd give them a coupon. So that was my first venture with Bill Parsons. But what I learned the most about him was his hustle as well. He's successful. He's had multi-businesses, a few McDonald's. But when I go to visit him at McDonald's, what's he doing? He's mopping the floor. And a young Johnny K is like, what's Bill doing mopping the floor? Like, isn't he busy? Doesn't he have to do paperwork? Isn't he in his office delegating? No, he's mopping the floor. That's the type of guy he is. If he's not mopping the floor, he's outside cleaning the windows. And what I learned there is, you can't expect your employees or the people that work with you to do a job that you won't do yourself. And that's what Bill was doing, and that's what he was teaching his staff at McDonald's, but that's what he was also teaching me. So Bill Parsons, great guy. I've had a few coffees with him over the past years, and every time I see him, he doesn't have the McDonald's anymore, but I know he's into other ventures, renovating. And every time I'd see Bill, he'd have a pair of jeans on, he'd have paint on them, drywall, he'd be building the deck, sawdust, and he's always going. He does it himself. So I've had a lot of great talks with Bill Parsons, and another mentor along the way on this 10 plus year start to Johnny K Sports. As we move along, I blew the budget with Harry Wilson. We'll scrap that. 2004, I had the notion that I wanted to open a second location, and that was going to be in Hanover, Ontario. And I had a customer that would come in the store often, very bright man, named Robert Cannon Sherlock, has two sons, and I watched them grow up. They're probably in their 30s now. His wife, Laura, I think both Robert and Laura worked at Grey Highlands, but Robert, I would talk to him about my ideas and my business. I told him I wanted to open up a store in Hanover, and he just said, hey, do you want help with your business plan? I'm like, absolutely. Like, this is something different from the business plan I wrote in 96 in the basement of Buzz Zimmerman's house. This had to be more complex. I knew more about the business, talking about inventory and cash flow. And he would ask me a question, and I would say, we need this, write it down. So Robert Cannon Sherlock just was the help I needed when I wanted to get to Hanover, and I had his help. We opened the doors in Hanover in 2004, and that started the venture. So another mentor that took the time to help me to become a better business person, and I appreciate that 100%. 2005, we're in Hanover. I start the first year on the corner, and then the building across the street comes for sale, and I buy that building, and now we have our own location in Hanover, getting settled in, and I started to wonder about getting extra help, some business coaching, kind of thinking outside the box. Before that time, Darcy and I had done a course called 10 Steps to Community Service, and Deb Fawcett and Heather Clark were in charge of that. And I remember they would have traffic light, like a yellow, a green, a red. I'm pretty sure I'm a yellow, kind of a scatterbrain squirrel, but we learned a lot of things in that 10 Steps Community Service. But the best part was meeting Deb and Heather. And then when I was in Hanover, I connected with Heather again. She had a business in town called Beacon Communications, and her slogan was shining light on possibilities. And at the time, I wanted to go next level. Like, I felt like I could give more as a businessman. I wanted to learn. I wanted help dealing with challenges. I just wanted someone to lean on, and that was Heather Clark. Worked with her for a couple years, and probably the biggest thing that Heather was instrumental for was helping us create our vision and value statement. And here it is. We are passionate about helping people achieve their goals in the world of sport. That's it. We wrote it out at the time. Andy Aiken was working with me. Darcy Eagles was working with me. And we wrote down things that we wanted our business to be. What are we trying to do? And we took all the words and passion and help and world of sport. And that was our vision. We are passionate about helping people achieve their goal in the world of sport. Now, to do that, you have to follow some core values. And we put together the values. Our 4 core main values are, to this day, honesty. We tell the truth and promise only what we can deliver. Service, we exceed all customers' expectations by going the extra mile. Fun, we are a unique place to work and shop. And the last one is caring. We genuinely care about our customers. We care about them doing well. We listen to their stories when they come in the store. We care, and that was a big part. That's kind of like maybe the shift in Johnny K Sports, that there's more out there than just, providing sharpening skates. Here you go. We're not, I want it to be more than robot structured. I wanted to, anyone that came into the store, we'd have conversations, and, it was fun. And Heather Clark was a big part of that. And I just want to thank Heather for that. She's another big piece to the puzzle. While thinking about Heather, I remember on different things I would do in the store. I remember I went to Jamaica for a holiday, and I was so excited to get back. I remember the phone rang on the Monday, and I picked it up, and I say, "It's a great day at Johnny K Sports." And they're like, "Wow, must be." And until we closed our brick and mortar, anytime the phone would ring, I would say that. It's a great day at Johnny K Sports. And I don't know what it was. I am superstitious, and I felt like the day went better when I said that, but I'd pick up the phone. Some people would be, "Is it?" Or "That's great," or "That's good to hear." But, starting with "It's a great day at Johnny K Sports" automatically makes me smile and puts the customer hopefully in a good mood, unless it's like maybe a creditor from a company. "Hey, you're late. You're 60 days late. What are you going to do about it?" But all that in business, any advice I can give young entrepreneurs on that too is, if you fall behind on your bills, I always called. I tried to beat them to the punch. The post-dated check, I know it wasn't invented by me, but I've written more of those bad boys than anyone I know. And it was all about cash flow, post-dated checks, get them in their hand. "Sorry, I can't pay you $1,000 today, but I can pay you $500 now, and I can pay you $500 in 2 weeks." Communication, that's what they want. If you ghost them, "John, no here, haven't seen them," then that's just when the wheels fall off. So that's one thing that I've always went by, staying in communication with everyone in the credit department, and just, they're human. They have a job to do too. That's the other thing. Like, they're not just busting your chops. That's their job. So wonder what that's like, having 100 people they have to call for money. So I always didn't like getting those calls, but I knew that putting a plan together, and that usually consisted of post-dated checks. So that's another tip. Speaking on the financial side of things, as I opened the store in Hanover, 2005, 2006, young gentleman walked in my store with a backpack on. His name was Chas Thomas, and he asked for a job. So I got to meet Chas, great kid. And then his brother comes in a little while later, a couple months later. Now we got Reese in the mix, two great kids. These guys are close to the 30s now, and just gentlemen, great guys. But the bonus of meeting Reese and Chas was meeting their parents, Rob and Jackie Thomas, and Rob ended up being my accountant. And I'm positive I frustrated this guy. He'd ask me for a piece of paper or something, and I wouldn't know where it is. And what Rob taught me was, if you want to run a successful business, we have to know what your starting point is. There can't be any educated guesses. What's your inventory? What should my inventory be? No, that's not the right answer. Count the inventory. That's what I learned. And just always having the time to give me advice. And, Rob and I are still friends today, still gives me advice. He's now retired from BDO, but having someone that can provide structure for you, that's another tip. If you're thinking about business, sometimes having Uncle Lenny do the books ain't a good idea. Sometimes, I got a deal. I paid $300, got my income tax done. Well, you know what? That might be a deal, but what you want is someone to make sure your books are correct. And if you ever need your accountant to support you in any way down the road, you have good books. So it's expensive, but it's worth the money. And that's just one piece of advice for anyone that's out there and they're thinking about, what to do with an accountant. Get a very good bookkeeper, which I definitely have that right now today. She knows who she is, and she knows how grateful I am for her. And and Rob Thomas back in the day here, 2008, 2006, 2007, 8, somewhere around there. That's when we started to work together, and I needed that. We went right down to bare bones, and it was definitely worth it because Rob was able to get me on the path just to kind of see, one, do I have a viable business? Check. Okay, next, have to work hard, have to make good decisions, profit margins. If you're not in it to make money, then what are we here? And we want to make money, but we want to help at the same time, and you can do that in business. And people that you deal with are going to respect that too. So, Rob Thomas, thank you very much, pal. Lastly here, just another shout out to a buddy, and this is going to go to Jeff McMillan. And I'm going to shout out Jeff because in 2010, we made a really quick switch, and I closed the Durham store, and it was one of the hardest things I'd ever have to do. But it was my ego that kept the Durham store open longer than it should have been, because I started there and I just didn't want to give up on it. But the day I closed the Durham store was the day that I actually started having fun again in the business. I called Jeff. I said, I need you. I need your truck. And he just asked me what time. He showed up, 3 loads of inventory in less than 24 hours. The store in Hanover was filled to the brim with inventory. The store in Durham was empty, and that was the end of an era there in the building. But just a pal like Jeff, no questions asked, and he's still there for me whenever I need anything. So those are some influential people along the way that helped with the first 10 plus years of Johnny K Sports. We can get into, there's people that have supported me when it comes to sports and coaches, but this is more geared toward business and just that chapter of the journey for sure. And, coming to a close here, I can't end this podcast without mentioning the number one supporter, and that would be my mom, number one supporter of all time. Some of my mom's famous lines, all the power to you, keep going. And, anytime I'd mentioned to my mom that I was going to do something, like 16 years old, I come home, hey mom, I was at the CIBC today. I got a student venture loan for $4,000. Jamie Calbury and I are going to open the canteen at the ballpark. We're going to cook hot dog and fries. That's going to be my summer job. Oh, good for you. All the power to you. Keep going. There was no questions like, who's Jamie Calbury? How did you get a loan? Nothing negative. She just trusted in me, and we went after it type thing. And my mom, just my number one supporter, especially when I was in that funk and dealing and battling with depression. She always wanted to let me know to keep your feet moving, keep going. I considered quitting Thundercat hockey, and she goes, no, you're going to regret that. Continue to play. I considered, just not doing the store anymore. No, you just started. You got to keep going. And, my mom, it was funny because I would bring the cash tray home after we'd close at night. So a normal business person probably counts the cash, takes the float, makes the deposit. Not me. I take the whole tray, and I take it to my mom, and after supper she counts the cash. And what we did at the time was I would get Bristol board and draw a thermometer, and I knew what my fixed costs were, I knew what the bills were owed that month, and I knew the line that we had to get to in sales to make it all possible. Today's version of QuickBooks, but my mom and I did it with a marker, Bristol board, and that's how we rolled. And those are the little things that she would do for me. And, I wonder sometimes if, how things would be different if I go to my mom and say, hey, Mom, I'm talking to Bev Eckert, and I think I'm going to open a sports store. And if she was she was more like, did you consider there's a sports store across the street? Have you looked into the finances? What are your profit margins going to be? It was nothing like that. It was like, you want to open a sports store? You have the support of Bev Eckert? That's all I need to hear. All the power to you. And I just don't know how things would be different if it was, I wonder about me today, if Jack or Charlie come in and say, Dad, I want to open a business. I think I might ask a few questions. But no one asked me any questions back in the day. And at the time, it was probably a crazy idea to open a store, small town Durham. There was already another store in town. And but I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it as a challenge. That's what I wanted to do. It wasn't like I was cocky or arrogant. It was like I was scared. I was nervous, but I just went ahead and did it. And sometimes that's what you have to do in business. So any advice here in closing with entrepreneurs and young people, just take a shot, take a chance. If you're willing to put the work in, anything is possible. So I hope you enjoyed the first 10 plus years of Johnny K Sports. And you know what? It's a fun podcast. It's 11. You'll see this in July, and I'll be back for 12. So thanks for listening, everyone. I appreciate it. Cheers.